Dustin Poirier takes on Michael Chandler this weekend at UFC 281, and I'm hype for this matchup. It's probably my favorite matchup on the card. I don't think anyone thinks this isn't going to be a barn burner. I'm going to go over my predictions for the fight. I'm going to break it down into two sections. One is a pathway to victory for Michael Chandler and a pathway to victory to Dustin Poirier, and then I'm going to say who's more likely to win out of those outcomes. First, let's get straight into it. Michael Chandler, how does he win this fight? Now, I think people like seeing him randomly front kick people in the face and KO them out cold. That's wonderful. The likelihood that happens with anyone but Tony Ferguson, with all the randomness he brings to a fight, I don't think it's likely. Chandler has big power, but Dustin's got a really good chin. Alright, he took shots from Conor McGregor. Big give it, a lot of people think he's a washed up McGregor. I thought his power was still pretty good. He's still rocking the head back of Poirier, making him see dizzy. Poirier's even said in an interview that those shots were still the hardest he's ever taken. I don't think Chandler's going to land on the feet, or at least he's going to have a hard time landing on the feet. Dustin's tough, and not only tough, but he's got good defense. In the terms of striking and boxing, which a lot of these two do, I don't think it's a great idea for Chandler to go into the boxing with Poirier. If Chandler's going to win this fight, I think it's big power shots that then lead into takedowns or exits. If you don't know what an exit is, after you hit, you move out. One strike, one out. Thing is, you don't want to get into an exchange with Poirier. He's got real good hands, and he's usually really good at some of those counter punches, especially with the ones where he leans back and hits back with the left hand or with the left hook. What we want to avoid with Poirier is getting in those boxing exchanges. If I'm Michael Chandler, I want to be wrestling him most of the time. I want to be throwing my big power shots, making him cover up, making him back up, and then going in for takedowns. Chandler's wrestling is actually really good. He's got very explosive wrestling, very good double leg. He can pick people up and dunk them straight on their head. You've seen this in pretty much all of his fights. The one thing that Chandler does bad at his wrestling is simply not doing it enough. Chandler's really good at abandoning game plans and going for the haymakers, and that's great. It's a lovely thing to watch. It's not so good for his career though. Arguably, he could have won that fight with Justin Gaethje if he stuck to pacing himself. He was actually out leg kicking Gaethje at the start of that fight, if you want to look at that fight again, and his wrestling could have come in really well there. He literally dunked Gaethje on his head. He could do a similar thing to Poirier. His wrestling is really good. If he explosive wrestles after maybe big shots, big wind-up shots, Poirier's going to be a bit afraid of that power, especially the first two rounds. I think Poirier's going to be backing up, raising that elbow he usually does and covering up against the fence. Chandler throws big shots, Poirier's going to want to counter, but as soon as Chandler throws those shots, duck in for a takedown, straight away. See, the thing is with Chandler in winning this fight is that he has to really follow a strict game plan. If he fights how he usually fights, it's not gonna end well for him. For a bunch of reasons I'll go over in my Dustin Poirier's pathway to victory. But we focus on Chandler and how he can win. His wrestling will be a problem for Poirier if he stays consistent with it. And that's just something we don't really see from Chandler. And this is the main thing. If he sticks to a strategy of leg kicking Poirier with explosive leg kicks, throwing big shots that make Poirier cover up or lean back, and then going in for takedowns, we're going to see a constant cycle of Poirier getting controlled, taken down, and stalled on the feet. Maybe we don't want to see Chandler box on with Poirier, but we can definitely see a stall. If he feints, if he keeps his distance, raise those hands for big feints, have Poirier backing up, being scared of that power, I can see a way he could maybe win this 2 rounds to 1. The last round is really hard for Chandler because Chandler's an explosive guy. He has a lot of muscle, and that's just a trade-off in MMA. You can have a bunch of muscle, that just means your body needs more oxygen, and you're probably going to gas out. Unless you're some sort of freak who has muscle and endurance and everything else. Like maybe Usman, he seems to have everything. Doesn't tire out, power, explosiveness, strength. But Chandler has shown in many fights, at the start of that round with Charles Oliveira, in his vacant title fight with him, he was pretty gassed. Not very gassed, but still he was slowing down. He wasn't as explosive as he was in the first round. And then he got clipped with that left hand. This is the other thing with Chandler. You can explain him as a glass cannon. He seems to get hit pretty often and when he does, he just tends to go down. Gaethje's power is no joke. He can put people out, but being dropped by Gaethje a few times. Poirier fought Gaethje too, and I think you can compare a lot of their strengths and weaknesses over both of their fights with Gaethje, especially with the boxing. Poirier made Gaethje look like an amateur boxer. If you rewatch that fight, you take into account the fact that Gaethje was really kind of using his face as a shield in that fight to push through and then land leg kicks and big shots and clinches against the cage. He wasn't really winning any of the boxing exchanges. If anything, he was badly losing them. I don't even know the strike totals of that fight, but if you watch it again, Poirier's lighting him up and then easily slipping out of the way of his punches. Whereas Chandler struggled a bit with Gaethje's placement of punches, with Gaethje's angles, with Gaethje's timing. You know, Chandler had to rush in as well and throw big punches. Very similar as to Gaethje's big power shots. Where Poirier doesn't have to do that. He can pick away at you. You know, he can outbox you at a range and slowly break you down. He doesn't have that one shot big knockout power, but he definitely can concuss you. Each shot is weakening you. You can see that in a lot of fights, like the Alvarez fight, or the Gaethje fight, or the Oliveira fight. He doesn't have these one big punches. He slowly picks away at people. Just keep hitting them. He's definitely got some heat in his hands. We saw when he TKO'd McGregor, when he TKO'd Conor McGregor. He was up against the fence, and his first big shot rocked McGregor, and McGregor's like, alright, I'll try and compose, and then Poirier just don't let him off the hook. We don't want to see that happen with Chandler. Well, if you're going for Chandler to win this fight. What Chandler needs to do, and what I think his coaches are telling him to do, is don't get in boxing exchanges with Poirier. Throw big leg kicks, chew up the legs, throw big power punches. After you throw them, you're either ducking out and getting out of that range, or you're going in. You're not staying in the pocket and waiting for those counter shots from Poirier. You're throwing big shots, you're going in for a double leg. You're throwing big shots, you're ducking out of the way. I just don't see Chandler winning that last round, no matter what. And this is really due to the conditioning. Poirier's conditioning is just, it's not the best, but it's definitely, it's really no joke. It's high tier. He can grind people out and he can hustle for the whole fight. And Chandler, he has shown some wars like he did in Bellator, but lately, in a lot of his fights, he's shown some toughness like he did against Gaethje. But again, did he look as explosive and as intense and switched on in the last round of the Gaethje fight as he did at the beginning of the fight? No, it looked slow. If anything, he mostly just taunted and got punched in the face really hard. He would taunt, get rocked, do some shade for the crowd, throw a big knee, get rocked. Like the last round of Gaethje Chandler really showed he was fading. It seems you can't take that explosiveness away from his muscles. He seems to always have it. I feel like you could go into Gaethje's room and scare him while he's asleep, and he'll accidentally throw a flying knee while he's asleep, while laying perfectly horizontal. Because that's the type of explosive muscle he has. He can just lift his body wherever he wants. Just, flying knee. It's crazy. But even when he's gassed, he's still dangerous. But I just don't see Poirier getting hit by any shots after he's got Gaethje's number. You see Poirier adjust to his fighters really well. He really adjusts to fighting someone a second time. The second Eddie Alvarez fight, the second Conor McGregor fight, you see vast differences in the outcomes of these fights. Because Poirier's got their number. Poirier's understanding the gap now. He understands the timing. He destroyed Alvarez in that second fight. Whereas the first fight was here and there. And also, the Alvarez fight does show us that Poirier doesn't do well with wrestlers. He really likes to square up in his stance. Poirier's mainly a boxer at heart. He likes to square up in his stance and throw his big hooks, throw his big power punches. And wrestlers get under that. They grab a hold of your hips and it's over. They dunk you on your head and they control you. That's what Chandler has to do to win this fight. He mostly has to grapple. He mostly has to leg kick. And his big power shots really have to make Poirier cover up and back off so he can take more ring control, so he can take more space and get to set up his takedowns and set up more stalling. Because the one thing you don't want to do is get into a scrap with Poirier. I don't even think there's anyone in the lightweight division, except maybe Fiziev, from what we've seen of him so far, I'm not sure, they can survive a scrap with Poirier. When things get messy, things get like into the later rounds and both opponents are bleeding, that's when Poirier shines. He can really hustle you out. You saw that against Dan Hooker, where Dan Hooker was actually like a really hard matchup for Poirier. Tough as well, longer reach, taller, lots of power shots, and just coming in on Poirier. Very hard for Poirier to deal with, and he still did it because he just out-hustled him. He just worked him. Just kept going. It's the same thing that happened in a lot of the other fights that Poirier's had. Unless you have something to negate Poirier's boxing, and to negate a scrap with Poirier, you're in trouble, honestly. I don't see anyone being able to survive in the pocket and just box on with Poirier. You know, even someone with a hard head who likes getting hit like Gaethje still succumb to those shots, you know. I don't see that's an option for many lightweights to just sit there and strike with Poirier for an extended period of time. So Chandler can't do that. He needs to get Poirier against the cage. And Poirier's actually pretty easy to ring control. If you've noticed in a lot of his fights, he tends to back off and try to cover up and shell up. And he backs off and waits for counter shots and tries to... He wants to play the long game, Poirier. He is not really a first or second round finisher. If he finds an opportunity, he will put you out. But usually he's actually a pretty slow starter. You saw this in pretty much every fight. The Oliveira fight, the Gaethje fight. He takes a step back and lets them sort of come forward. Gaethje was a little different because he was boxing his head off the whole time. He was probably just getting tired. His arms were getting tired from beating the hell out of Gaethje. But that's the pathway to victory for Chandler. Leg kicks. Stalling at range with your feinting. Threatening that big power shot and either landing it on the guard or even land it. Hit Poirier. Whatever. Jump in for a takedown straight away after you do that. Whatever you do, don't sit there in the pocket and box with Poirier. Kicking the body from range, front kicks would be really useful as well. His front kicks could really help him here. He needs to utilize his kicks. He utilizes his power just to really scare Poirier and set up stuff. And he needs to utilize his wrestling. And then he can win a decision. I see a decision win for Chandler if he actually sticks to a game plan. If he leg kicks Poirier, front kicks Poirier to the body, moves in, throws big power shots that Poirier ducks out of the way of and tries to counter, and then he gets double legged and take down, controller on the ground and pound. First 2 rounds will go to Chandler. Last round, I do see Chandler fading and Poirier starting to pour on the pressure, and then he's out of time. Chandler's still got a decent amount of headway in the, still a decent amount of gas in his tank. He's still there. I do see him getting clipped though in the 3rd round. And in general, you got to really watch out because if Oliveira can put you down with the left hand, Poirier's going to put you down with the left hand too. And there is something to say about that. Chandler obviously didn't expect. He thought he was the boxer in that fight. He thought he was the striker. I can beat this guy on the feet. I almost finished him in that round. And then boom, left hand. So it's a little different. He's going to prepare for Poirier. And if you're properly preparing for Poirier, you don't box with Poirier. It'd be like wrestling with Khabib. It's not a good idea. You want to use where you're strong. So, pathway to victory to Chandler, wrestling. Basically, setting it up with a lot of body and leg kicks. Poirier's pathway to victory is kind of just the way he already fights. As boring as that sounds, he's kind of the kryptonite for these explosive big power guys. We saw that with McGregor. McGregor's actually very similar to Chandler in that way. He's a very explosive, powerful guy. But he's technical. He's a very good boxer, McGregor. Chandler is a striker. I don't know if I call him a boxer. He can throw big shots. He can put you out. I haven't seen that much technical boxing from him though. I've seen him explode in with crazy fast twitch muscles and big power and just put people down like he did with Dan Hooker. That's not going to happen with Poirier. Poirier's really tough. You're not going to put Poirier down with one shot. You know, you could rattle him and then he'll cover up, he'll clinch, he'll move out of the way. He's been there before. Poirier's really good at dealing with this sort of style that fades as the fight goes on because Poirier just gets better as the fight goes on. So what he'll want to do is what he's going to do. He's going to shell up. He's going to move back with that high guard. He's going to try and find his counter shots. And when he clips Chandler, if Chandler boxes with Poirier, that's what's going to happen. He's going to get clipped on the chin and he's going to get dropped. As soon as he gets dropped, Poirier smells blood. This is another thing. If you don't have a way to stop Poirier finishing you once you get hurt, you're going to get finished. Let's think about this. Conor McGregor, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje. He hurts them, what happens? They're done. He finishes them off. He smells blood, he starts pouring on the pressure. You can't get like a blood-hungry Poirier, when he thinks he's got you, you can't get him off you with boxing. What are you going to do, counter him? McGregor did. McGregor slipped some shots on the cage and hit back. But Poirier's got a chin, and he moves forward really good. There's a lot of different combinations, different types of punches. and relentless. As soon as he knows he's got you, he's going to throw lots of punches. Oliveira avoided this by just going to the ground. The thing he used with Chandler, Gaethje, everyone. He goes to the ground, he threatens submissions, and people back off. That's how Dustin Poirier wasn't able to finish Oliveira, because he got to the ground and he threatened submissions off his back, and Poirier didn't want to go to the ground with him. That's not going to happen in this fight. If Chandler gets hit by Poirier's going to keep throwing on the pressure, and I think he's going to finish Chandler. I just got to hope that Chandler shows up with a good game plan, and really tries that, because if Chandler shows up and does the things he's supposed to do, he has the tools to win this fight. He might control Poirier, and we'll see some back and forth throughout the first 2 rounds. But that last round is really where I worry, because if Chandler fades and Poirier's been getting your timing for 2 rounds, and Chandler, there's a difference between having bad cardio. It's not bad cardio, it's just he slows down. There's a difference between slowing down on your own pace and having someone like Gaethje who plots forward and tries to throw big shots and doesn't really push the pace as much, to someone like Poirier, who in the 3rd round he's going to be in your face, really trying to get rid of you. And even in the Gaethje fight, Chandler vs Gaethje, Gaethje was still worried about Chandler's big punches, and he doesn't move his head enough, so Chandler was able to land those big punches. That's what stopped Gaethje's forward pressure a lot. I really don't think Chandler's going to land that much on Poirier. I think Poirier's far too slick. I mean, that's what I said. If both of them get put in front of Gaethje and have to dodge Gaethje punches like they did, Chandler gets hit and dropped. Poirier moves out of the way too slick and barely gets touched by Gaethje boxing. So it's pretty obvious who's the better boxer here. I think Poirier doesn't get hit. He moves away, he slips, he ducks, he has that high guard, that shell he likes to do, where he likes to use his elbow to block some of the punches. As Max Holloway said, he's blocking weird. Yeah, he elbowed your fist, bro. It's actually a mean tactic by Poirier. But yeah, then again, let's talk about Poirier showing up for this fight. I think he will. I think it's just in him now. He's just kind of like, his second nature's fighting, Yeah, I just saw, it felt like he aged 5 years in 4 seconds after he tapped to Oliveira. Did you see that, the interview after the fight? He goes from before the fight, really keen, he looks fresh. And I know he's just been through a fight, but it's not swelling. That made his face look different. If you see an interview of him with his arm around Oliveira after talking about his charity and getting the money for it, he looks tired. He looks old, like an old man. Like his face is droopy. He's got bags under his eyes. Go look up the interview, post-fight interview with Oliveira and Poirier. He looks old and he looks disheveled. And I know he's obviously probably under a lot of stress, and he's probably very heartbroken in that moment, and he's come back now. But there is a world where Poirier does come into this fight not motivated and just like, whatever, and he gets a Michael Johnson. If you know, Michael Johnson KO'd Poirier in the first round immediately. He got a perfect angle while Poirier was actually turning into it. Poirier was trying to throw an uppercut and turning into it, and Michael just big explosive power like Chandler sort of guy, and just finished him so quick. Poirier hasn't been dropped by punches in a long time. I don't think he's got any give in his chin anymore. He's got a granite chin, Poirier. But maybe he comes into this fight bored, and maybe Chandler front kicks him in the face out cold and does 14 backflips in front of the crowd. Who knows, But, okay. My actual prediction is the Poirier finish in round 3. I think, I'd assume Chandler is motivated. He comes in with a game plan. He tries his best to stick to it. After destroying Tony Ferguson like that, you got to be motivated. He really wants that title. That's what he's here for. He says he's not here for a long time. He's here for a short time. He's been saying that a lot. So this is kind of his last chance. If he loses to Poirier, his title aspirations are kind of done. That's kind of it for him. So I think he's going to take this seriously, and we're going to see first 2 rounds be extremely competitive. But I can't get over the fact that Chandler fades. He leaves his hands down. He abandons game plans. He's not a great strategist. He gets scrappy way too much, even when he's literally... Getting scrappy made him lose to Gaethje, and he continued to do it anyway. He's gonna do that in this fight. It's just who he is. And he'll probably do that by round 3. You know, after he gets a bit tired, he gets a bit scrappy. Maybe he lands a bit on Poirier, starts getting confident, starts putting his hands down, taunting a lot. And then Poirier's going to drop him. And after he drops him, he's going to get up, try and spin, try and do that explosive little spin he did after Oliveira caught him with the left hook. He did a little spin to get up, and Poirier's going to follow him and just destroy him. And he's going to get TKO'd. That's my prediction. And the pathway to victory for Poirier. Be Poirier. Be kryptonite for explosive guys who fade in the later rounds. It's hard to fight Poirier when you really don't have any ways to finish him on the ground nowadays. His boxing's just too good, his chin's just too good, his conditioning's just too good. He starts to read your timing, he starts to pour on pressure, starts to land on you. He gets so much better as the fight goes. Chandler gets worse as the fight goes. Chandler is known for abandoning game plans and scrapping. Poirier's really good at following game plans and scrapping and taking you out in the later rounds. Chandler wins the first round with grappling. Possibly he wins the second round, maybe. I think the second round's going to be really close. In the third round, Chandler gets sloppy. Chandler gets tired. He throws a few crazy random punches and knees and crazy kicks. He lifts himself 60 feet up in the air with his own muscles by just kneeing like 5 times. No. But he does some crazy stuff, but he gets caught by Poirier in that third round when he's slowing down, and Poirier's getting better. You know, he might be a bit more tired, but he gets better as the fight goes on because he just reads your timing. He's going to drop Chandler and finish him. My prediction is a third round TKO for Dustin Poirier. With 2 really good rounds for Chandler, and I think possibly such a good first round for Chandler that he actually, like, you might think wow, Chandler's going to win this. He just sort of really won. He just clearly won that first round with a lot of wrestling and leg kicks and stuff. But yeah, that's my prediction. This is one of my first YouTube videos. I live in this house, but this is the basement. If you can hear random stuff in there. I don't have a studio or anything. I kind of just a dude who really likes MMA and really wants to talk about it. So leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about my breakdown? Do you think I'm missing anything? Do you think I'm accurate about what I'm saying? Do you completely disagree? Do you think Chandler's going to backflip KO Dustin Poirier, just backflip and hit him with his heel and KO him, or whatever you think's going to happen? Let me know in the comments. I'm going to do a bunch of breakdowns. I'm going to do one for Esparza. Sorry, I just can't say her name without... Zhang versus that woman that made me fall asleep for 5 rounds, that last UFC event. And I'm going to break down Adesanya Pereira and break down the Dan Hooker fight, the Frankie Edgar fight. I'm really into UFC. So if you're into UFC too, give me a buzz. Come watch around sometimes. Might do some live streams on the events. I'm not sure about that yet. Maybe wait till I've got a few more people that actually watch this. But yeah, hope to see you guys in the next video. Let me know. Let me actually know. I like these discussions. My favorite thing is UFC and the unpredictableness of the sport. Predicting it's so fun. Seeing how things you miss during the fight nights is so fun. So let me know what you think. Poirier third round TKO though. If you're going to bet on that.